So can you see my screen?
I sure can.
Perfect. So yeah, a couple of things, guys, about the talks. So scaling Agile at a startup. So we'll be discussing how to build on great strengths of a startup while ensuring a scalable process throughout its fast-growing cycle. It's anyone who's done a startup knows that one of the biggest problems is the fast growth of a startup. So this is really, really important. Driven by a need to maintain accelerated innovation while improving velocity and quality of features related. And also, any solution needs to consider technology, people, processes, and culture. Today, we will review Penny AI's journey, meeting the challenges of scaling startup. And Jane will be telling us about it. She's VP of engineering at Penny AI, a very versatile cross-functional leader and advisor. Jane is known for working across departments to bring the right skill sets together to deliver customer-centric products. For over 20 years, Jane has specialized in creating software solutions for global digital-first businesses from large Fortune 500 companies to startup as Penny AI is. And Jane is guided by lean and agile principles and has implemented SAFe scaled agile framework across Penny's product development and release teams. As a leader, Jane promotes productivity that yields results so everyone knows that the time they've invested in developing a product is time well spent. An avid supporter of QA and constant feedback cycles, Jane encourages relentless refinement so that the product features are future-proofed for ongoing innovation. And one very fun fact, Jane lives on a float home and can be found pedaling on a pedal board even in dead winter. Jane, that's like, wow. It's really fun fact.
It's not too cold in Vancouver. I'm actually Vancouver based, but actually right now happen to be in France. That's why I'm connecting with you guys at this time. It's not quite a suitable Vancouver time of the evening. We don't, yeah.
Yep. Next time when you present, we'll have you in the morning. So.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Are you?
No, I didn't.
Cool. So before we begin, guys, a couple of things. Presentation is being recorded and will be publicly posted. Please stay on mute during the presentation. Or Jane, if you prefer, they can jump in. It's up to you. And there will be at least 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. During the presentation, please post your question in the chat box and we'll attend to them. And we'll address as many as possible before the end of the session. Otherwise, we'll figure out how to get the answers to you. Before we begin, any questions? Any questions, guys? Okay, if not, Jane, would you like to go?
Great, yeah, roll her up there. So yeah, we can probably skip on to the first slide there. So yeah, delighted Michal reached out and asked if I was interested in doing a chat with you guys here today. Really exciting kind of topics, I think, to cover today. It's like, how do you scale, how do you implement kind of agile at scale at a startup? So I'm going to talk first about the challenge, then about our particular journey, quick recap on some of our key learnings, and then open the floor up for discussion. I'm happy if anybody wants to ping a question into the chat as we're going through. Michal, feel free to interrupt, and we can deal with it in the moment, or we can park it and have it in the open session towards the end of the session. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the Penny pipeline. Penny's started in Squamish, BC, so just north of Vancouver. Anybody knows Whistler is a ski resort. It's halfway between Vancouver and Whistler. So its grassroots are there. 2018, so really after the two co-founders got together with one of the co-founders' wives and realized the need that they were trying to solve as a AI assistant for the direct sales industry, the team kind of became a core group of 5. So in 2018, we're getting started. We're looking at B2C enabling platform to help individual consultants grow sales, in the direct sales industry, and that's 2018. Rolling into 2020, and we're expanding into enterprise data-driven sales and Element. So now we're looking at a platform to help grow sales at scale across global locations for direct sales enterprises for their field, to support their field. The team's still under 20 in 2020. Roll into 2021, and the team is now kind of reaching over 50. I was employee number 50 a year ago, 51 a year ago. So this is really the tipping point for operational change. And I'm hired at the right time to help with that pivot and that operational change. So the leadership saw the need, and we're hiring the appropriate people to come in and support it. 2022, and this is what we'll talk about, Penny's launches Agile at Scale operating model, and the team grows to over 110. So we're looking at nearly double growth in that 1 year. We did our Series B funding, 27 million. So we're feeling strong, we're feeling ready. The industry's ready, we're ready, and we're ready to scale. 2023, what does it offer? Basically, continue to measure and learn, hypothesize and build. So that's our culture. That's what we're doing, and trying to set up an operating model that helps us to do that as we roll into 2023. So let's kind of dig a little into the detail. What was our business imperative? So for us, reimagining Penny end to end, right? Across the people, the technology, the people. Penny was growing and growing fast, right? We needed to keep that startup value of there's 5 people in a room, everybody knows what's going on, and everybody's part of every decision, right? How do we ensure, and that was a culture that people are drawn to when they're drawn to startups. They want ownership, they want engagement, they want to be part of the risk taking, right? They want to be experimenting and evaluating. And these were key things that we wanted to make sure we kept. So we wanted to support Penny growing, but also kind of keeping its culture and supporting operational and product initiatives, because as an organization grows, we couldn't just focus on what we wanted Penny the product to do and Penny the solution to do. We needed to look and also engage in what we wanted Penny as an organization to do operationally. So I worked really closely with our chief operating officer to make sure that this wasn't just a product engineering rollout of Scaled Agile. This was a Penny-wide marketing, HR, finance, everybody's involved in this. This was not just a product engineering, how do we deliver software? This is how do we scale an organization that it can grow and keep track of its vision and the work that it's doing and the framework it's using to build it, right? So we wanted the evolution of Penny's value proposition, accelerated innovation, and engineering discipline. So these were the drivers. If we go to the next slide, we'll see the challenge, right? We wanted to build on our strengths. So this is, I mentioned a couple of these already. Everybody has a voice. It's ego-free. There's a genuine culture. I mean, within days, actually before I joined Penny, in the interview process, I could see the genuine culture. Like my team interviewed me, not just the CTO, right? So there was I could see that there was a real culture here that was trying to maintain itself and ensure that it became scalable. There was organic communication. We had incredible staff retention. I'm going to say that we had the first loss of an engineer in the last 2 months since 2018, right? And that turnaround is just natural, right? And his needs and his wants were but like that's a serious pressure on a VP of engineering, right? To that retention, but there's a reason for it. The self-organizing, decentralized decision-making, no micromanagement. It was nimble. It felt like a family. These were all things we wanted to maintain and keep, but we had some weaknesses as we were scaling, right? Managing capacity, being able to forecast, being able to go out into the market and potentially predict when we might have a new feature. How do we manage our capacity to be able to forecast, to plan? And we were looking to go for Series B funding to be able to organize ourselves to be able to understand and appreciate that we could achieve what we were committing to. And so that's that visibility of the product roadmap, the visibility of the architectural runway. If the product is going in this direction, how does our architecture need to scale to go with it? And how do we link those intrinsic pieces of value? Losing the focus on the AI journey, people were starting to feel that we were focused on our enterprise engagement and not as focused on the innovative value of AI within our solution. And that's, again, connecting us back to the vision. As we started to scale, we were at this kind of key point that was giving us a pivot, right? We either switch and become all enterprise, or we maintain true to our core, which was the belief that we had the product design principles and innovation to be able to build the right solutions to meet the field and the industry. Clarity on career paths. Some of the team were concerned about and didn't see where Penny was going, because as a startup, it was just growing, right? And it needed a little structure around that. Churning on requirements. So because it was so dynamic, and there was an element here, I think, of the Wild West, that it played in our strengths and it played in our weaknesses, right? So you want to maintain that Wild West, but you want to just calm it a little bit so that you're not churning and there isn't there's a streamline to the flow and you can manage the flow of what we're doing. And then things like giving ourselves time for cool down, like there's that constant push, like people feeling like the next project is rolling into the next project is rolling into the next project. So if we go to the next slide there,
Quick questions from Phil. Do you want to ask?
Oh, yeah.
Phil?
Go ahead.
Oh, I can.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, hi. I look happy to answer that at the end, because it's, I think Jane's on a roll. So happy to do that at the end.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, cheers, Phil. Yeah, so what was going to be our solution? So we looked at my experience as an SPC is SAFe, right? As Michal said, I've implemented SAFe in an organization with 16 arcs, so thousands rather than like 100. So I understand the principles behind it. And I also understood what can go wrong at scale, which I think was the value I was bringing to Penny, right? Knowing where we didn't want to go and the pain points we could end up in and the silos we could end up in, and the importance of engaging the whole organization. And again, a leadership that also saw those pain points and we were all trying to achieve the same thing. Looking at lean portfolio management. So if you think about two co-founders, right, they've been just brainstorming and doing, right, since 2018. And how do we set ourselves up with an ability to share that vision so that the people who aren't in the room are understanding the same business intent, are understanding the direction as well. So we launched a Lean Agile Center of Excellence to give us a focus. That Lean Agile Center of Excellence represents product, engineering, operations, HR, accounts, partner success, marketing. So it's a whole Penny Lean Agile Center of Excellence. And it's a really powerful group that meets to talk about the overall vision we're trying to get towards and how do we do it as a whole. We rebranded the PMO. It was a bunch of project managers. We were a product organization. It was a value management office, not a project management office, because we needed to shift from project to product to give people that sense of the core product and the building of that core product to help us kind of understand strategy, planning, and the execution. And then we launched Agile teams across product engineering and the operational structure. There was fluid teams. People were moving to the work rather than the work coming to them. So the teams were very fluid. We had engineering managers who had people reporting to them, and there were leaders and tech leads and senior engineers who were supporting and mentoring others. And we had some strong product voices giving them guidance on product content, but there wasn't a formal structure to it. And putting that in place was going to give us something to evolve, to inspect and adapt, and to continue to evolve. So some leading indicators for success that we were going to use to track it: improve velocity and quality of features for the Penny solution, that we were seeing that, right? That we were becoming more efficient. I'm quite quality driven. I believe quality should be driven left, right? It's not about a good test plan at the end. It's about a quality requirement, the definition of the need that gets you to a quality solution that is very clearly defined. So the person who's building it, whether it's the development code or the marketing material, has clear understanding of what the acceptance criteria are, so they can build to that. It deems it's when you're done, you're going to be successful if you knew what you were going to be validated on when you finished, right? Because you will work to those same acceptance criteria. So a process that would allow us to ensure that. Synchronized planning. So our marketing team were having great quarterly planning meetings. Our engineers and product people were having individual planning meetings. Everybody was having planning meetings, but they weren't necessarily aligned to be planning to build and to deliver and to release the same materials. Greater transparency and accountability. Reduced duplication, which inherently happens as we have this rapid growth. You've got all of these huddles all working really efficiently together, but not necessarily working really efficiently as a larger group. And then just making sure we don't lose that agility that's just inherent in a startup, that ability to shift, to change as the market or innovative opportunities allow us, right? And as part of any Agile, certainly at scale, just automation, repeatable processes, automate them where we can. Okay, if we go to the next slide, the journey, how did we get there, right? So I talked about people, process, technology, really the people, how do we train them? Like some of these, the team had never worked in an Agile environment before, not just in operational areas, but also in the engineering area, right? And they'd never been part of a team. So how do we train people? How do we educate people? How do we communicate to empower them, right? So in other words, we're giving them the right information to empower them to make the decisions they need to make. And then opportunities for growth. How do we ensure that everybody within the organization sees and understands their opportunities for growth? Especially as in a startup, there's always opportunities as it's growing, right? Exposing those. The process, making sure there's a clear vision, making sure that the executive leadership team is driving initiatives, clear KPIs to support those initiatives so we can make sure we're on track. Repeatable processes, as I said, synchronized events, really important elements of the change we wanted at the process level. And then the technology is making sure that our technology was setting us up for stability, scalability, performance, automation. And I look at this technology not just from an engineering perspective, but also meeting our operational needs. One of our biggest pain points that we're only just resolving this quarter was tooling, right? The right tools to give us access to the data we need to plan, to manage the work, and to support us in our execution. Okay, so if we go to the next slide, really to look at how did we know that we were, from a leading indicator, what were we measuring? So for us, it's metrics that mattered. So quality, basically support tickets to active users. How do we know that what we're delivering has been delivered to a quality that is acceptable for us? And that is, this quality support tickets to active users isn't bugs. Was it usable, right? Because the support ticket might be, I can't access it, or it's unclear, it's not a good user experience. So it's exposing everything. It's exposing issues in our understanding of the need, issues in our design of the solution, and actual bugs in the code. So this was a really important measure for quality, and this is measured and available for the whole company to see on a daily basis. And it drives us. Every piece of work that we're doing must fall back to one of these matrix. What is that piece of work going to resolve? If I'm building something to change our database performance, that's probably going to impact on number 1 and number 2, right? It's going to improve quality, and it's going to give us a better reputation with our partners because they're going to see an improved performance in their large loads around month end, or in the data that they're sending us getting processed more efficiently, right? And no latency between their send and our the availability of that to their consultants in the field. And reputation, number 2, partner references. If knowing that our enterprise customers will represent us and feel comfortable representing us, that we're adding the value, right? That not only what have we delivered is a value to their field, but it's a value to them. And that's where our data and our data analytics coming in, being able to give them and the information that they need from what's happening in their industry. Because there's just so much data being processed here. How do we be smart about actioning it? And not just leaving it sit idle or producing reports of little value. Celebrate shipping, shipping of everything, shipping of code, shipping of a new video, new training materials, new marketing materials. Just celebrate it, right? We achieved it, we ticked the box, it's satisfactory, and making sure that that's acknowledged, so that we're setting ourselves up for that long-term success. And then on the people side is our average pulse survey. So we're keeping an eye on the pulse of us as an organization, looking to make sure that this is a measure of it, but also you've got we're still not large in the terms of large enterprises, right? We're 110, 120 people. And what we're doing here is making sure that as we scale and as we grow, we keep our hand on the pulse, not just through our one-on-ones and our conversations. Like I can still meet one-on-one with the whole engineering department probably once a year, right? If you think about this, that grows, that's going to get harder and harder and harder. And it's going to become groups meeting rather than one-on-one meetings. Whereas with my direct reports, those weekly meetings are easy to continue to maintain and to stay on the pulse of things. So this is the matrix that matters. So as part of our journey, this is what we've implemented to support that element of the journey. If we look at the next slide, what did we do from a team perspective? So that's what we're measuring to make sure we're on vision. Now, how do we structure ourselves? We start at the bottom left here, and this is our enterprise customers, right? This is sales. So this is where we're bringing in large revenue. Out in the field, individuals are subscribing and buying, and we'll see that at the top left, product insight is coming in just directly from the field, whether they're enterprise-driven users or whether they're individuals. So all of this, we have a solution group that is architect, product, data, all together, just determining the sales asks and ensuring the right solutions are put in place so that we're driving towards core quality and not looking at the enterprise level of building custom code. That doesn't set anybody else up for success. We're a SaaS solution, and trying to ensure that consumption of our core APIs and building out our core APIs to meet new enterprise customer needs rather than building individual solutions. So that's where our solution group comes in. Our CTO and our head of innovation, just out there, new ideas, looking at that horizon 5 and 3 and making sure that we're thinking for the future and where are we going next. Product insight coming in from the field, coming in from our CS, coming in from our engineering team, coming in from everybody. Product insight gets reviewed, gets assessed, gets groomed into new core features that our product team believe need to be validated, built, and delivered. So these are all feeding into our art. And the Agile release train, there's the 3 icons I've used there. One, it's that teamwork, collaboration, we're working together. We're planning together our calendar of events. And then that little plus is that our role is effectively to just keep adding more users, right? Right? Like, and that will happen by us all thinking about how do we help the consultant in the field make one more sale? How do we support the enterprise understand what their consultant needs to make one more sale? So it all links back to that same ethos. So we have an art trio, which is the product manager, our value management office is our RTE, a committee for an architectural review. So back end, front end, data, DevOps, all represented in an architectural committee, making sure that we're getting the right solutions and the right people engaged. And our QA manager, again, all about shifting this left. And when I hired the QA manager, his whole thinking was, how can he get, like, not do his team out of work, but how do they get it so that his team are just validating that the quality has been ensured through the process, and not just writing test plans to check that code executes the way somebody expected it to execute. Then we have feature teams. At the moment, we've 2, probably on the verge of splitting to 3. And this is where it's fun at a startup, because hard to get to norming stage of teams, because we form, we storm, we reform, where our inspect and adapts are always bringing change, right? And as we grow, we need to account for that as well. A systems team to help build that platform, the framework that the features are going to be built on, keeping an eye on the architectural runway, keeping an eye on how we deploy, how we manage our database, how we manage our front end. We've got some big changes. And this was where this team was finding it hard to get space to work when not separated out from feature teams, because new features would take priority. And this gives us the ability to share the value outcomes, and nobody disputes them. If you say the outcome of this systems work is to be able to ensure scalability, to ensure performance, to ensure this new functional feature can be built, then nobody disputes and questions the value of them. But sitting inside the feature team, the feature will always take a priority. So it was very important for us to pull that out. Our release team, this is so valuable in any organization. I don't know how people work without it. A coordinated group of field enablement, marketing, customer support, ensuring every new feature gets delivered successfully. Is the training there? Is what's needed out there to market it? Is customer support ready to support it? And it's powerful, right? Because it makes sure that the actual value is not only deployed, but it's actually released and engagement happens. And then there's not an arrow here, but there should be an arrow here, because effectively after we release, that arrow goes all the way back to product insight, because we're constantly measuring and we're constantly rehypothesizing and learning and building from that. We've just rebranded our core production team from production support, not just to draw talent, because no one wants to work on a production support team, but core production is about ensuring the stability of production, ensuring engineering excellence, right? Ensuring that what the framework built and the features teams consumed actually is efficiently functioning in production. And they will either action some of those features that they find in the bug trends that they're finding, or in the CS tickets that they're finding, or they'll feed them back into the backlog, and they could be picked up by features, systems, or themselves. So it makes it closes the circle, which I felt was very important, or we felt was very important. So that's the team. I'm conscious of time, so I'll go quickly just to the next slide and walk through it because most people on the call, I assume, are familiar with SAFe and SAFe events at a really high level, kind of ownership at the ELT, at the executive leadership team, where we have an ownership on the ELT of making sure that the vision is heard, that we have the business cases for the work we're trying to do, and that we are active voice in PI kickoff, and that the teams understand the direction we're trying to get in the PI. We approve the plan. And then every sprint or cycle that we are also synchronizing. And that is a key part of our, and we synchronize and converse on our matrix, right? How those matrix are progressing. The art is responsible for grooming the features. That's that art level activity of the trio getting together, the product managers, the architectural committee. Are they ready? Has lean UX been considered? Because there's going to be architectural and engineering impacts on the design. Then the art as a whole syncs and has a system demo every sprint and every cycle. The teams, obviously, we have product owner and tech lead, and preparing and planning the finalizing the design. We do a 6-week plan. Our PI is 6 weeks. We dropped it to 6 weeks for the first time. We just doing PI planning this week. We've gone from 12. 12 was too long. We were having to take in work that wasn't fully elaborated. It was causing churning. So we said 6 weeks, no one can force you to take in work that's not elaborated, because it's only 3 sprints, right? Finish it and come back for the next part of the quarter. So far this week, it's been proven very successful. They groom the stories, they sprint plan, they do the daily stand-up, they do their sprint retro. So we have standard SAFe events in place. We're capturing standard SAFe artifacts out of that. And this was the framework that allowed us to ensure that we were following the principles. And we're changing and adapting as we need. And the lean agile leadership is obviously key to that in any implementation, that not only is supporting it, but is an inherent part of the conversation through pre-planning, planning, and post-PI. So on to the next slide here in our learnings. The big ones, listen to ensure you're communicating clearly, right? I think every single thing we've communicated has not been heard the first time, right? So if we as a LACE were to say, we're done, we communicated, we wouldn't be successful. It's listening, making sure that, okay, how do we re-communicate that? How do we change the way we're trying to onboard this, because it's not working? Even in a startup, when the team is not risk or change averse, the change needs to be managed. Because there was a little element, I would say last January, of, oh, we're all here because it's a startup, we can do change, and just too rapid, too quickly, too soon, without the proper management. And we didn't fail, but we definitely floundered a little. But we still were improving on where we were, right? So even the floundering was progress. And I think that's about celebrating shipping. We celebrated every single success as it was moving us in the right direction, no matter how small the steps were, right? And buy-in is needed from the top. Again, this is no matter whether it's 1,000, 10,000, 10 people you're implementing for, because without that clear messaging of the business vision, it is absolutely impossible to know why you're doing anything, right? And if you don't know why you're doing something, you're not empowered to make decisions about it, and you don't understand the value of what you're doing. So that to me should really be at the top. And inspect and adapt to evolve, right? Constant. As I said, our inspect and adapts are always bringing change back, as our growth is rapid. And we need to be in just ready and agile enough, both from a coding perspective and an operational perspective, to implement that. And now I've dumped, as Phil said very, very nicely. Thank you, Phil, that I was on a roll. So again, I hope that did make some sense and kind of gave you some sort of vision on what we did do at Penny, and happy now to take questions and chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Phil, go for it.
Yeah, look, thanks. Jane, awesome. Super clear. And bringing something as complicated as that is in a simple state. It's not easy, but it's certainly well appreciated. I'd actually, the question that I've posted, I'd prefer to do that later on if I could, please, because the other question I have is, you mentioned tools, having the necessary tools. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised to hear that sort of wasn't necessarily at the top end, but how did you manage delays, roadblocks, and how, in terms of the impact of those sort of things, in terms of the coding, et cetera, on the overall flow? Or just
so we had tools, but they just weren't providing what we needed. So we had our engineering team worked in linear. They really liked linear. Nobody else could work in linear because it's very engineering based tools, very crude. We looked at ClickUp, which is a do everything tool. but just not on a maturity to support us, right? And we tried really hard because it really does do everything, and I think it will get to a point when you can better manage what you expose. It becomes too much and too clouded. So people couldn't see inside our tooling where to find the brief, where to see the status of it, how to look at, if you think about it, how to look at the program board and see how the program board is progressing. And we didn't have a tool to do that. And that was the ultimate ask of the tooling shift. And we've shifted to Atlassian. I've had very positive and very negative experience with Jira over the years. But one of the things that it does have is the marketplace around it. Atlassian are also improving Confluence and your ability to dashboard. Now we can quickly expose, right, the relevant information to the relevant parties. So at an ELT, we can go in and quickly see the progress on what's happening in a PI. You can have a risk log that's pulling directly out and update it. And ClickUp was trying to do that, but was struggling and really hard to onboard people to, because it was trying to do too much and wasn't intuitive. Or wasn't intuitive to us as marketing and engineers, right? Because we need something that works for a whole organization, which is so many different personalities, as we know.
And yeah, great answer. And personalities, different ways of viewing things, different perspective on different challenges because they're looking at it from a different different platform.
Exactly.
And that's sort of, if I may, Michal, excuse me,
go for it.
a little bit here, but that sort of leads into the second question, which is the one I posted, that whole cross-functional agile philosophy, because that is what we were just talking about, right? In terms of how can people see the things they need to see in terms of their scope within the bigger picture. You know, do you find, we're sort of a little bit off subject, but do you find that that dynamic is actually starting to impact other industries? Because I sort of come from across the fence from major sporting events, and I use this philosophy with everything you've just said in the same way. And I'm just sort of wondering whether or not you see the agile philosophy used across other industries.
I think if I look at the way our marketing department and our customer support department manage, and it's very much in this, like they're thinking, even though they didn't call it agile, that was just the way of planning and the way of thinking was there. Like, so it was a terminology shift, not a mindset shift, right? So that was the way they were already thinking. So it slots really nicely in. And for us to go to a system demo now and to see the code as it's getting built, and then to see the marketing materials, or to hear CS talk about the positive feedback and the negative feedback that they're getting and the tickets that they're getting all in our system demo, that it's, to me, that's operational success. And it's looking at the full value stream. It's appreciating that it's not just that a piece of code is deployed, it's the value, and it's not just the value of an individual feature, it's the functioning of the organic whole. So in your example of sporting events, if you think about your success is the success of that event, but in order to get there, you have to break down all the work into deliverable components, whether they're in a Kanban or a Scrum, those teams, they're ultimately achieving that end goal. And if what you're doing isn't linked to that end goal, then drop it, go and do something else, right? So I think, yeah, and I think that the industries are opening, because I think people are shifting. If you see your organization, Penny, where people then transition into other fields, they, like somebody from marketing could end up going to work anywhere, right? That they're bringing that thinking and methodology with them. And I think it's just a way of working, right? That's effective.
Phil,
And personal life. And in your personal life, right? I have my backlog. I have my Kanban.
I mean, yeah, 100%. I mean, major events, World Cups, Olympics, and you mentioned the word silo earlier on, and you know, the enemy of effective workflow, and look, fantastic. I'm done. Thanks very much.
No worries. Thank you,
Thanks
Phil.
for those, Phil.
Anyone else, guys? Quick, otherwise I start talking. Mehul, you are on mute.
Yeah, Jen, thank you. I used to be in Portland, Oregon for a long time, and Vancouver was 6 hours drive, which was nothing at that time. Now I'm in Sydney, and even two hours drive is a lot of work now. So I have a
We have a whole
transformer.
different concept of driving here. Yeah, it's nothing to drive 9 hours across the province.
Yes, yeah. We used to have two-week sprint, and I think that the ceremony got too much for the 2 weeks, and I guess then we went to 3 weeks, and it's working out okay for us. Did you guys have that problem that every 2 weeks I need to do retro and I need to do sprint review and that additional? So that's first question. Second question, I saw that as you mentioned that there was no a tooling or agile ways of working when the founders started, and when was and I saw a lot of teams, but I didn't see a platform team as such. Maybe it was, and there is a need of platform team when you have, say, 100, 200 people, So is it the transition made, or it is still in process?
So our systems team is effectively our platform team. So they're building the platform and the framework. So that's effectively our platform team. That's where our back end, front end engineers are sitting to build our platform. They're working with DevOps from a deployment and a management of that from a platform perspective. Also working with data and ensuring data integrity and data architecture and data engineering across the platform as well. So that's kind of the cross-functional group. And actually in our last kickoff this week, I referred to it as the systems, AKA platform team. I don't know, you're all, all our teams, I'm Irish, even though I live in Vancouver, but I grew up in Ireland, and 2 of the engineering managers also happen to be Irish. So all our teams are named after crisps. So like cheese and onion, Irish cheese and onion crisps. And anybody knows the Monster Munch, our core production team has just branded themselves Monster Munch. So yeah, so our systems team, which is Funyuns, basically is our platform team, and that will grow and evolve, and we'll start to see components of that pull out into as we mature and scale into core groups that will inherently become teams in their own right, maybe even inside as you grow a platform art, right? And that's where I would see us eventually scaling to. On your first question, yes, and yes, it's really hard, right? It's really hard to figure out the balance between too many events and the value of those events. So we're right now happy with it. We've gone to 6-week PI, which is more events, if you think about it, right? But it's a less effort to plan. So we're not spending as much time planning as we had with 12 weeks, and we're more effective in what we can plan. The system demos, it's a lot of people attending. It's a cross-penny demo, and trying to get that to where it's show, not tell. We started off very much show and no tell, and now we're starting to see ourselves just measuring and sharing the tell. And I'm about show. And then our idea is that our tooling and our dashboards will give you the tell. So, because I'm conscious that there's a lot of people every 2 weeks at those demos. How do we shrink it? We publish little micro videos. So you might not want to attend the whole demo, but this little new feature is really important to you. So you can go and watch the little video. So we're giving access to the content of those events so that they're available to everybody, but not necessarily for everybody to attend those 2-hour sessions or those 1.5-hour sessions. The teams still like 2 weeks. They feel that that's a solid enough piece to get work done. I would be worried about us stretching to 3 weeks, because I would be thinking about us going to 1, right? And just even making those events just more effective, because there's the team is dynamic has changed, right? And it can be tricky. I don't think there's a right answer. I've heard people happy with 1, 2, 3 weeks. I like early, quick feedback.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mehul, for the question. Anyone else, guys? Any other questions? I wonder if, Jane, you can stay a bit longer.
Yeah,
After
no,
the
I'm
hour.
fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm working Vancouver time out of France, so my day doesn't start till about 5 o'clock at night.
Wow. Lee, you want to ask a question? You and
G'day, guys. Yeah, Jane, I'm interested, obviously, in the 6-week PIs. Do you do an IP sprint?
Yeah, so this is our first one, right? So we're right in it, and it's a 1-week little IP sprint, right?
Okay.
So what we've kind of done is taken, this is the sprint 1 is started with this IP week, right? And now we will continue work. And so we're trying to manage the 13 weeks of the year, right? The 52 weeks of the year and our sprints and our holidays and everything, and managing it. It's a constant shift. We'll see how this goes this week, because the point and the connect for the actual synchronized planning, the opportunity to groom, the opportunity to catch up is really important. We obviously, like every organization, have externally driven milestones. So we're always kind of working to those externally driven milestones. Some of them come sometimes within those weeks. So we usually try to avoid that, and our salespeople are mindful of that. Like, because we're communicating across the organization, we have some advantages there. But some things are, key events that an enterprise customer is having that we have to deliver to, that we just need to make sure that our PI planning doesn't impact it. And that's just managing the teams in that moment. But yeah, we've kept an IP sprint. It's just not 2 weeks.
Yeah, sorry, I joined a bit late because I was having trouble with my meetup, but too many email addresses. I couldn't find the right one I'd registered with. But and I'm in Brisbane as well, so the hour did me too. But that's another. But the other thing is obviously in PI planning. Do you shorten the 2 days then as well? And I'm sorry if you've covered that bit.
No, I haven't. No, this is good. Yeah, so what we're experimented with this is that everybody's in PI planning. Tuesday was our kickoff, right? So we wrapped up the sprint on Monday. Tuesday was our kickoff. Everybody was in the kickoff. And then a feature teams, not our systems and our release teams, kind of did their primary planning on Tuesday. Wednesday, while the others are finishing their planning, the systems team and release team came in and started to see what were going to be their dependent pieces, because the release team's planning is directly related to what teams can commit to delivering, right? And the systems team, we want to make sure that they're picking up the enablers and the dependencies after the initial planning is done. So we structured it that way. So that was yesterday. Today, we're doing our draft plan reviews. But all week in our stand-ups and our scrum of scrums, I can see what key features are not being picked up. And we've had really productive conversations with getting product to scale something down. Hey, you got to tell us the real value. That's too big. So we're doing it over the week. We're having all the events, draft plan reviews today. Then the ELT meets normally today. So what we do is we do the draft plan review. Then the ELT session has a bit of a shift from our normal silent stand-up every 2 weeks to a review and a problem solving for the draft plans. Feed that back, and we'll have final plan reviews tomorrow.
Cool.
And we're working really hard to get to the point where the product owners and the tech leads for given features have had an opportunity ahead of the PI planning week, and its capacity is allocated to actually be getting all that stuff groomed ahead of time. Because if you look at SAFe and they say, come in and groom all this stuff, that's not realistic. I don't care if you're in the same room or if you're virtual, the ability for in 2 days to take it, and there has to have been a little deeper dive by your product owners and your tech leads, not just your product manager and your art level trio ahead of PI planning. some people have, it's a set of principles in my mind, and the events and artifacts support those principles.
Yeah, I call it continuous refinement. As soon as you finished a PI planning, you start refining for the next one.
100%, 100%. And we had a good conversation in our stand-up yesterday about they were saying something wasn't ready, and I said, but this is work we've done before, elaborated in time, knowing that you have to do it. It's elaborated enough, right? The stories don't have to all be written here because you've built this before. So it's an exact duplication. That's elaborated enough. So now you can take the PO, can take the time, and the tech lead to build out those stories. So it's making sure that people don't kind of force back looking for, oh, I need all the stories there so I can add up all the points. In fact, you just need a placeholder story that references back to the work you did before and the logic and thinking you had and the assumptions you made for the size, right? To give the team, for the team to have confidence. I said, if the team has confidence with that, because the team did, it was other people who were saying this needed to be in place, and the team we're good. We know what we have to do. Why are we having to do this administrative task in our planning phase? So.
I've got a question, Jane. How do you then balance the velocity versus capacity?
We all know the funnel comes into PI planning like this, right?
Yeah.
And we have certain things that have to be completed. Some of them will be core product features that we have kind of committed in the marketplace or have believe that will be significant improvements that will generate revenue that they need to be marketed, they need to be out there. But we'll also have enterprise customers whose integrations and implementations are pivotal for a PI because we've contractual commitments, right? So we effectively work to prioritize. We use WSGIF. So we do WSGIF. We have the product owned business value. This is how we've structured it. Product owned business value, accounts and partner success on time criticality and risk and opportunity loss, because they own that sales. They understand it. And the engineering team own the sizing, and the release team. Because sometimes what gets forgotten is that what can be a very small engineering size can be a huge effort to release. So say there's a lot of translations, we're going into the Korean market, but we've no CS to speak Korean, and someone's offered Korean CS, right? So like it's understanding those elements of it. So we've got the WSGIF structured in a way, and then obviously if it's core product owned time criticality and risk and opportunity loss. So that's having the whole organization involved is phenomenal, right? Having worked in organizations where it's not and struggled with those elements of actual releasing the value. So we'll end up with too much, and then our draft plan review today, the ELT will meet and we will either look at it and we'll problem solve. It could be we've got a really good company that we've partnered with for additional resources. We know they have the skills we need. It could be that we're bringing in some resources to help shore up the teams, augment the teams to get that work done. It could be that we're pushing and changing the priority and having a hard conversation with one of our partners. Or we're having a hard conversation with product in the ELT to say they're going to have to shift that, and marketing will be there. Everybody's represented to see the impact of the change. And then we'll come back and say, this is the shift. The teams will do their final plans. Now we look at, when they've set their objectives, did they achieve their objectives? We don't look at story points. I don't look that you committed to doing 200 story points and you only did 100. And I don't look that you committed to doing 200 story points and did 300. Don't care. That's gamifiable, right? 100%. It's so easy to play that game, right? And velocity changes, right? It changes with a lot of things. It changes with the time of year. It changes with whether it's so many things. Objectives don't. So you set objectives in your PI, and I measure, and every system demo, the dashboard is telling whether you're heading towards achieving those objectives. So halfway through the PI, I looked at a key objective hasn't even started. I'm going to start questioning how you expect to get it done in the remaining part of the PI. And if your objectives change, because we could do change control and say, oops, something new's come in and there's a business reason for us to shift, then you'll be able to share that your objectives changed. So to the business value of your original objective dropped, and the new objective that you took in had an increased business value. So in fact, you delivered more business value than you had intended. So it's about, we're not there yet, putting the new business value back at the inspect and adapt, but that's one of my next goals, because it's incremental, right? Is to be measuring the business value of the achieved objectives. Because sometimes what we think is going to be a big business value ends up not achieving the expected value. And we want to close that as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, if I can squeeze just one question, Jane.
Yeah, no problem.
With me, you mentioned you have to manage change even in a small organization. So you're probably thinking of organizational change, right? Introducing of training and stuff. Any particular detail, like how much training did you do? Did you have anyone specifically focus on change, or was that you?
We had our lace, so we had nobody works alone a penny. So basically, we drove out. We did some initial training of the people who are on the lace and some key others. I did leading SAFe training. So back in late 2021, did leading SAFe training. Then we launched a kind of a SAFe for penny as part of our first kickoff. We did everybody through some Agile training, some SAFe thinking. Again, back to that, you may have communicated, but did anybody hear it? And the training was conducted. We had active workshops, people were involved, but you have to keep coming back to it, right? And you have to keep evolving and thinking about, and then people get onboarded who weren't on that training, and how do we make sure the onboarding is successful? So at the moment, we're looking at our onboarding materials, some little micro learnings on how we work, so that anybody can pick them up and remember and remind themselves about that. The tool shifting was a really good opportunity to reassess our workflows and our processing. And we just did some training on that. So everybody got onboarded for that. And so really, as a LACE, we're constantly looking at what's the priority, and the leadership we're very lucky. They have an invested interest and are quite happy to spend the time, because it is time and it is cost and it is effort, on the growth, on the training, on the change. Sometimes it's easier to just say, no, it's working, let's just leave it alone. It's not costing me anything, but you don't understand the value, the lost opportunity, right? So that is there. And we were not very good, I think, at onboarding some of our tooling and ways of working in the early days. And we lost some people that we had to gain back their trust, right? Okay. And being aware of that was really important.
Do you have the full training inspect and adapt session as per kind of SAFe or something similar? Or
yeah, we have an
per teams.
We have an inspect and adapt, and I did notice this PI. I reached out to our director of the VPMO and said, "What happened to our inspect and adapt for the last quarter?" "Oh, we're doing it asynchronously." Okay, let's try that. So we're going to do our retro board and then pull real actions. But we work quite well as an organization asynchronously. Like, Slack is not a place where you get work. Slack is where we collaborate and have conversation, but it allows us to do those kind of asynchronous with like inspect and adapt, get to the end and then publish the actions. And then the group gets to vote and acknowledge those actions without us all having to go to an hour-and-a-half session. So we're looking at that, and we'll see how that goes. I'm open.
We want to hear that next time you present. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions from anyone else? I don't want to keep you guys, but yeah, if nothing else, Jane, thank you so much. That was really, 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 really good. We enjoyed it tremendously.
Great to share.
Great to share. And yeah, definitely we would like to hear more once you get this off the ground, probably within a year or so. more and more experience. And same guys for anyone else that you're here. If you do, as you can see, it's not too hard to have a, present a story. It's pretty much just telling us what you've done. So looking forward to someone else putting the hand up. Okay, if nothing else, thank you so much to all of you as well. A couple of guys left because we are 7 minutes over, but thank you very much, Jane, and until next time, guys.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
Right.
thanks
Thank
very
you.
much,
Jane.
Jane.
Bye.
Fantastic.
Thank you,
insight.
Michal.
Seriously experienced pro. Wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
reach out at any point. Love to connect. Okay. Bye-bye.